Everyone, and welcome back to Master Site. Today we're going over the Iowa GT 2024. Going to go through the pack and then also the army that I'll be taking to the event. So it's going to be this weekend, July 20th, 21st. And for those that may not be familiar with the U.S. tournament schedule, the Masters event is the main event of the year, coming up here shortly, and lists are actually going to be due a week or so after this event. So it's pretty much the last battleground for testing out lists. So I know haven't been on the YouTube channel a lot. Haven't had a tournament since Lone Wolf, I think it was. Been hosting a lot of events here in town instead of playing. But we're back in the swing of it. We're going to have a lot of events for you, a lot of coverage coming up. So hopefully you guys are ready for some more battle reports. So let's go ahead and dive into the Iowa event, and then we'll go through the list. So I was going to be, like I said, this upcoming weekend, July. They've changed locations this year. I wasn't able to make it last year, but I was there the year before that. Iowa usually falls on Labor Day weekend, but that's the same weekend as Masters this year, so they've moved it up, which is helpful for me and some other people that weren't able to make it over the holiday weekend. But yeah, I think they've picked a good time of year, and it sounds like they have a pretty decent showing. I think there's like 26 or 28 guys showing up, so should be a good weekend. One of the things they're doing this year, they have a different venue, and uh, Stephen DeRose, who runs the event, is set aside some time and reserved a spot at the Country Sportsman Club, the Marion Country Sportsman Club. Essentially, it's a gun range. It has fishing ponds. It has like picnic tables and outside hangout space. So Friday evening, that's where anybody that's in town is gonna come hang out, have some fun. Uh, sounds like some people might go to the shooting range. Some people might go fishing. But yeah, it should be a good time. And Stephen also opened up his house this year for people to stay at, which is always very helpful for keeping the events cheap and reasonable so we can go to more events throughout the year. So, pretty standard schedule, 65 minutes for games. It's 2,300 points, so it's going to be a pretty standard there. And then we have a hang out in the evening at Stephen's house on Saturday. And yeah, so army list, that's pretty straightforward. Models, nothing new here. The army lists were due, I think, Friday before the event, so there's no matchup cast or anything like that to have to worry about. Uh, do, do. So terrain, terrain is pretty standard. The only thing somewhat unique is buildings are height 7, so theoretically a flying titan on top of a hill, or even a flying monster for for this example, could see over the buildings. So that is something to be aware of, but at least for the list I'm planning on taking, won't come into play. Otherwise, it's pretty straightforward. Stephen has given us the scenarios we're playing right away here, so we know exactly what ones we're playing and which rounds we're playing them. Um, all of the or four of these are in the Masters pack. So invade, hold the line, stockpile, and control are all potential ones we'll play at Masters. Kill is the only kind of weird one, but at least it's modified. It's based off the unit strength killed. So you add up the total unit strength you've killed versus the total unit strength your opponent's killed and compare those differences. I like that better than just points, but kill as a scenario is still uh, flawed in my opinion. So, but hopefully we won't have any issues with it. Just have a fun game either way. So, so scoring for the event, fairly standard with some slight twists. So, it's going to be win, draw, loss, but losses are 7 points instead of 15, 10, 5, which is fine. There is a plus or minus adjustment for kill points, essentially. So the difference in kill has to be 1750 or higher to get a +5. So it's going to be extremely difficult to get that +5 for kill. It's going to have to be a massacre for that to happen. Yeah, plus and minus. Then he's added on a couple extra things here. So, kill them all. You receive an additional 2 points if you've eliminated all of your opponent's scoring units, and you retain at least 1 point of unit strength on your side. So that that's fun. I think that's a cool role. I also think it just kind of plays into the kill, but it can be a pretty bloody game, and then one side has a couple individuals left or a war machine or two, and the other side has scoring units. So this could definitely be a factor in the games. So um, I do like that. Another thing, and the most interesting thing about the of Iowa GT is that a lot of events have like a theme of some sort. The Iowa GT's theme is that the tables you play on are parts of the Panathor map or Mantica map. So you're playing uh, in or around relic sites. So there's going to be essentially a unique piece of terrain on each table, and that terrain piece will give a unique buff or debuff depending on who won on that table in the previous game before you. So if an evil army won, it may give that terrain piece may effectively have Cloak of Death or something. But if a good army had won, it might give off Radiance of Life. And if a neutral army had won, it might just be Rally 1. And all these will affect everyone equally, no matter what alignment your army is. So that's just an example. He usually has a couple, different ones, unique ones, and not every table is the same. So different buildings or artifacts or monuments will give off different auras and stuff like that throughout the game. So it's really fun, and he's incorporated that into the scoring as well. So uh, the tables have different places in World of Mantica. Every table has own unique theme and special terrain piece. So the unique terrain piece is going to give you +2 bonus points at the end of the game. Is scored just like normal objectives, counting the unit strength within 3 inches of it. So um, yeah, it's one of those things where that'll be definitely a discussion point for each of the games and battle reports that I do. Go over what the terrain special terrain piece was and what buff or debuff it might have been giving off throughout the game. So but yeah, it's like I said, I've been to Iowa GT before. It's always a lot of fun, and the unique terrain piece in these buffs make it a very unique event, and I like what Steven's done with it. So, a lot of events have like a special character and stuff like that, but this one is very unique in itself. So essentially, it outlines that there's a possible of 24 points each round if you get a win for 15, the +5 for battle, and both the +2 by killing all your opponent's unit strength and controlling the special terrain piece. So a lot of battle points that are potential. So, but it's definitely, like I said, it's definitely going to be difficult getting the +5 here. The somebody's probably getting the +2 unless it's a tie. I don't expect people to just ignore the special terrain piece, no matter what scenario it is. But the +2 for kill 'em all, it'll happen maybe once, a couple times in the event. So, so, and then kill points are tiebreakers for any awards or overall scores. So sportsmanship, pretty straightforward. There's check boxes for yes, no, for basic stuff. Um, and then there's going to be favorite opponent votes at the end. So adding all those up gets you a sports score. I'll let people kind of pause if they want to read through that a little bit more thoroughly. Paint scores is, I believe he has it somewhere down here. Yeah, paint rubric. So, um, yeah. So if people really wanted to take a look at the paint rubric, it looks like it's mostly a checkbox type rubric. And then I think there's a little bit of judges discrepancy in there too, but I'm not going to go through each one of those things. I'll let people pause and look at that if they want it. The awards that are given out, there's going to be overall general appearance in sports. So pretty straightforward, just one for each, which is pretty good. I don't think there's a player's choice or a countercharger, which, for in my opinion, is perfectly fine. I think it's you know everybody does their events a little bit differently, but it's very clean just to have the main four, the overall, and then one of each three. Uh, so very easy to understand as well. So final score totals, possible 200 points, 120 battle, 40 for sports, 40 for paint. Pretty I would say classic or standard, like 60, 20, 20 split. Sometimes you see a 50, 25, 25 split for battle, paint, sports. I think that's, kind of the norm and what people are used to, and what it sounds like majority of people appreciate or look for in an event. Um, I know we'll talk about Masters when that comes around, but I know that the overall for Masters overall goal is usually just battle for players that are going to Masters, but the Paragon Award is an even 1/3 split, and that yeah, it leads to some crazy scores in the past. But otherwise, it's pretty straightforward, pretty easy there. So that is all for the tournament pack. So we'll go ahead and cover my list. So I decided to take the Nightstalkers. So this is going to be actually same exact list that I took to Adepticon earlier this year. Giving them a try. I know my EOD pretty well. I've played around with them, so in my mind, currently EOD or Night Stalkers are the two most likely candidates for Masters. So I'm gonna pull out the Night Stalkers again and see how they perform on the table for me. So, for those that aren't familiar with the list, I got 4 hordes of scarecrows, 2 troops of tormentors, 3 soul flares, J boots, helm of the ram, and blade of slashing. I have 2 lightning bolt mind screeches. I have 2 horror rift weavers, 3 butcher flesh rippers, and the dread fiend with the trickster's wand. So it comes out to 17 drops, 28 unit strength, and all of my units, all 17, are scoring. So that's one of the big things I like about it. Um, Obviously, with the kill scenario and counting unit strength, my army doesn't live very long. It's all pretty squishy. So I'm going to be bleeding and giving up quite a bit of unit strength in that scenario. But that's kills kind of that odd scenario out. As for pretty much any other scenario, I feel like the army just has enough tools and enough play to really compete in most all scenarios against most lists. So, but it definitely has a glaring weakness. So it does not like lightning bolt, as we saw at Adepticon. So uh, yeah, we're just gonna we're just gonna take it, have some fun, and I feel like it'll give me some peace of mind one way or another of whether it's something I should truly be considering for masters or not. So, um, yeah, so that is my army, and um, yeah, so we'll be playing our games. The battle reports will be coming out the week following the event, but maybe not as quickly as I have done in the past. There are some other scheduling things that I have to accommodate for in order before I get the battle reports going. So I'm hoping that it should still be within a week or so. But we'll see exactly how that works out. So, but yeah, that is the army. I am ready for the event. It's going to be a good, fun time. So, looking forward to it. And I appreciate everybody for watching. And we'll see you in the battle reports. So, catch you later.